Hey, what's up everyone? Ragey Golden Eagle here, having way too much fun as always. Especially right now because I have for you guys even more proof that the gaming media is pretty much dead. Dead and completely irrelevant. And to prove that point, I'm going to be going over the curious case of Where the Water Tastes Like Wine. An indie game that was heavily pushed by the mainstream gaming media. All links will be in the description box below, of course. Now, first off, I want to get this out of the way. I've never played the game myself. Doesn't sound like anything I'd care about. So I'm not going to judge the game. However, I will point out some of the people who worked on it. Leigh Alexander, Jita Jackson, Austin Walker. Any of those names sound familiar? If any of you were around for Gamergate, they should, especially Leigh Alexander. One could argue that she kicked off the whole thing, actually. She was the one who penned the first "Gamers are dead, they don't have to be your audience" article. An interesting group of people to invite to work on your game, isn't it? But it all starts making sense once you realize that, again, Leigh Alexander, for instance, used to work at Gamasutra. She very likely still has a lot of connections to the game industry. And as we learned during Gamergate, it's all just one big inbred clusterfuck over there. So if you look at it that way, you can kind of see what the developer was trying to accomplish with his hiring decisions here. Hire a bunch of people with connections to the gaming media and/or who were on the gaming media side during Gamergate, and you're practically guaranteed to have the gaming media shilling your product, which is exactly what they did. So how good did it do? Quote, "Commercially, it's a disaster. I can't discuss exact numbers, but in the first few weeks, fewer people bought the game than I have Twitter followers, and I don't have a lot of Twitter followers. And this tells you a lot about how effective marketing via Twitter is." And yeah, this guy has barely over 4,000 Twitter followers, so it's not a lot. We've seen this before, but we're going to get into that shortly. Either way, then we get into a little bit more of a breakdown, this from the developer himself. He spent 4 years working on this game, and it's kind of implied he was effectively doing it full time. And in addition to that, he spent an extra $140,000 paying other people for their work on it. Let's just say the money was not made back. Then we get to the real gem from his blog post. Quote, "Joking aside, that's dismal and terrifying. At the end of the day, it's astounding that a game that got this much attention from the press, that won awards, that had an all-star cast of writers and performers, that had a bizarre celebrity guest appearance, failed this hard. It scares me." End quote. There is a lot to get into and honestly laugh at here. The game indeed did get a lot of attention from the press, and it did indeed win awards. But you gotta realize, the gaming media, the press, is completely worthless and irrelevant and powerless in current year. Not only do they not speak for the gamers, but they are actively against the gamers. Siding with them is not gonna get you any sales. And it also shows just how much the awards that they give you are worth. Really sucks for this guy, but I take a kind of sick pleasure in seeing anything that critics just completely blow their loads over fail in the mainstream. Because again, it's just another example that the professional critics and the game's media is leagues apart from the actual audience. They don't represent the audience, they don't speak for the audience. In fact, they are often polar opposites of the audience. Then you get to the all-star cast of writers and performers. Again, a bunch of anti-gamer SJWs, that's sure to get you attention. And then we got the celebrity guest appearance, who by the way was Sting. The singer, not the wrestler. If it was the wrestler, they probably would have sold double. But either way, now that all the information's out of the way, again, multiple links in the description box below so you could go through this at your leisure. I mentioned earlier, we've seen this before, and we have. Remember a game called Sunset? That game had a pretty similar story. The gaming media blew their load over it, and it ended up selling about as well as this game did, 4,000 units, including their Kickstarter backers. It was so bad that the developer, Tale of Tales, rage quit the game industry afterwards. And then to further prove my point, we have the case of Kingdom Come Deliverance, which sold like mad even after a lot of the irrelevant old gaming media outlets basically blackballed it and refused to cover it. Well, unless they were calling the developer racist or something. Despite that, boom, million copies. So with this, maybe now, finally, the game industry and anyone thinking of getting into it is finally gonna learn that not only does the old irrelevant gaming media not have any power anymore, and thus they are not the ones you should be appealing to, but they do not speak for us gamers. And this lesson needs to be taken to heart, especially by companies that tend to bend over backwards when the irrelevant old media manufactures a moral outrage. Just ignore them. Or better yet, poke them on purpose. The free advertising from their reading is just going to get you a lot more sales. Appealing to them is just a way to fail. Remember, get woke, go broke. This is now the second time we've seen this happen. The gaming media puts their entire weight behind something. The irrelevant old gaming media advertised the shit out of this, and in the end, it didn't matter, since the developer only had the support of the irrelevant, dead gaming media. Now, if someone like PewDiePie, on the other hand, supported them, then the game likely would have sold pretty well. Though when it comes to streamers and YouTubers, the game also has to be good, since they usually play the game live for their audience, but that's besides the point. Let's assume this game is good. If it is good, and it has the support of a big YouTuber or streamer like PewDiePie, it will likely move tens of thousands of more units than it would have otherwise. I ain't dumb enough to believe that even PewDiePie could turn any old indie game into the next Minecraft. But if it's legitimately good, he would easily bring it to the attention of tens of thousands or hell, millions actually, given his view count, of other people who otherwise would have completely missed it in the sea of shit that's out there nowadays. Gaming is a pretty damn crowded market. Though that does open up job opportunities for, say, YouTubers and streamers, especially when it comes to the indie scene, because as swamped as it is with complete crap, I see a lot of value in someone sifting through all of that shit and bringing the few gems that they find to other people's attention. That is actually starting to seem like a worthwhile profession, in my opinion. Not everybody has the time or the patience to go through every day's new releases to look for what may or may not be good. And that's where YouTubers and streamers come in. And previously, this was actually the game media's job. This is what they would do. They would be the ones to advertise the stuff that they find good, or that they were paid to advertise, or they were just shilling for their friends. But yeah, you get the point. Nowadays, however, as I hope I've made perfectly clear throughout the course of this video, it's obvious that they have an agenda to push and are actively shilling the shit they should be filtering out. Meanwhile, you got streamers and YouTubers who actually play the games for their audience to see, showing potential customers exactly what they will be getting should they buy this game. No political bullshit at all. This way, even if they are just shilling for a friend, or even if they did get paid to play it, the audience can still see for themselves if it's worth a shit. So yeah, the game may get more exposure, but it's still not worth a lot if it's shit. So let me reiterate, if you have a game you're trying to advertise and it is actually good and you're willing to stake your career on it, forego the dying old gaming media entirely and try to get it into the hands of the people who actually matter, aka the big streamers and YouTubers. These people will move way more units for you than the dying old media ever could, as Mr. Nordhagen learned the hard way with his game. That's all I gotta say, guys. Thanks for listening.